question would be, when did you first start racing?
I started racing myself when I was 16, so that was back in '76. I was going to Speedway Park from when I was 7 with my dad and my brother.
Okay.
But I first originally started in '76.
What class did you start racing in?
Just in the bracket racing class with my truck that I drove on the street.
Okay, so you said you started about 76 or so. What was the buzz around town at that time about Speedway?
Oh, Speedway Park was a big hit back then. You know, there wasn't the other things to do at the time. There wasn't as much golf. The Oilers weren't here. There was no baseball. So drag racing was a huge, huge thing, huge sport back then, thing to do.
Okay. Just all around thoughts on Speedway Park.
Speedway Park was a great facility, and I mean, it was a facility probably second to none in North America in its time, with the tower that we had and the track facility and the road course. And a lot of people, I don't know whether really realized that it was a racetrack that was way ahead of what majority of other tracks in North America had.
Your thoughts when you heard it was closing down?
Well, there's always the disappointment because then you have to travel, and that's when I quit drag racing, was when they shut down Speedway Park. I guess it was, what, 83, I think. I got out of it till 91. It's just, you know, at the time, other things came up, and it was just the travel.
So you were completely out of drag racing from 83 to 1990, 1991, is that correct?
Yeah. On the participation side, I mean, I used to watch it, but on the participation side of drag racing, I was out of it.
Okay. What did you do during drag racing's down period in Edmonton when you were racing?
Well, basically, I started a business, worked on that, got married, you know, and I guess went to the lake and did that sort of thing, water skied, and you know, just kept yourself busy with other stuff.
All right. Your initial thoughts when you heard that they were opening a brand new track by Nisku?
At the time, it was, I guess it would be, hey, this is great. I decided back then to get back into drag racing. So for the first year, we started in 91 was our first year. So we had to travel to Calgary and Saskatoon. But it was great that we were going to have a track at home.
Did the availability of the facility aid you in your decision to step up from being a bracket racer to getting involved in drag racing with an alcohol funny car?
I guess it might have played a little part. I always wanted to drive a funny car from when I was 7 or 8 years old, seeing them at Speedway Park. So it was always a lifelong dream to drive one. And it certainly did help with having our own track here, that, you know, to get involved and to be able to test at home. I think we probably would have done it. Even if we were back into drag racing, we'd have done it and gone to Calgary or Saskatoon.
Who were some of your heroes growing up back in the Speedway days? Who were some of the cars that you really look forward to seeing, you know, on the funny car side, pretty much?
Oh, I guess you got to say Terry Cap. I mean, Terry was a guy that could wheel pretty much anything. Gordy Bonin, Twig Ziegler was always a real neat guy to see. Hank Johnson, Jim Green. There was just a ton of them, but I mean, you always have to cheer for your hometown guy. Bob Papernick was another one. Doug Moody on the double B side of things. So there was lots of them that I really cheered for.
What about we were talking earlier with Bob Majot, and he was saying that the fans at Speedway were second to none. What about the fans now? Do they compare to what they were back in the old days? Are they pretty? Can you draw a comparison to them, or?
Well, we've got some really great fans here. I mean, and you can see that when you're out at the Rocky Mountain Nationals. I mean, they'll fill the stands. The one thing I think that we have now is the fans have more things to do, and they're busier. You know, they're a lot busier. It's a busier lifestyle than what there was back in the Speedway Park days. But they're possibly, in fact, I think probably more educated now because of TV. They've seen it on TV. There's more magazines and that. So the fans of today are probably a little more educated about funny cars and drag racing than what they possibly were back in the Speedway Park days.
Okay. What were your initial thoughts on the IHRA Rocky Mountain Nationals coming to town?
Fabulous. I think it's one of the best things that's ever happened to the city. And I mean, you can see by how it sells out. And I almost think that they could have more people going to it. You know, to see that caliber of car and how many of them, 10 and 12 funny cars, nitro funny cars that, I mean, unfortunately, we're not going to see on a regular basis like we used to before because of the cost. So that's where I think it's great. It's great. The fans then can see, you know, what nitro is all about, what pro mod is all about, what pro stock is about, that most of the fans will never ever see.
Okay. We were talking earlier with Bob about safety and how much the safety aspects at the two facilities have differed throughout time. Your opinions on it? Is it a lot safer now, say racing now, than it was back in 78, 79?
Oh, I'd say hands down. I mean, I look at some of the pictures and look at some of the cars that, you know, that guys used to drive, and, you know, roll bars were basically made out of exhaust tubing. And I mean, you look at the likes of this chassis, it's chrome moly. I've got a 5-layer suit, the fresh air systems that the helmets have, the roll bar padding, the thick pads. I don't think there's really even a comparison to the safety factor. Granted, speeds have gone up and everything too, so you have to work with that, but I don't think there's any comparison as to the safety now as to what there was back in the 70s and 80s.
Where does the moniker the Burnout King come from?
That, I guess, just came from when we first started with the car. I know from a fan, when I was sitting in the stands, the Burnout was one of the neatest things. And I've always sort of thought that if you can give the crowd smoke, noise, and a side-by-side drag race, they'll go away happy. So we just sort of started with that of, hey, let's do a big Burnout and give the crowd what they want to see.
Is that the kind of the premise or the genesis, if you will, of the International Blow and Alcohol Association that you're involved with? Is that sort of the idea that you want to give out to the fans that pay the $12 or the $15?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the things as being the president. I've always tried to get across to the guys, do side-by-side burnouts, and then let's make it a drag race. And I mean, there's some pretty close drag racing in our association now. But I've always felt that that's the key part, or one of the key parts of drag racing.
Because we were talking with Bob earlier at his place about what the old track was like in just, not layout, but just the shape of the track and stuff, and how the cars bit off the starting line. What about the track prep now? It's got to be just miles and miles ahead of what they had back then at their disposal at Speedway.
Oh, I think the track prep, there's, you know, better VHT, and there's the gold dust in that now. And the smoothness of our racetrack since it's been shaved as compared to, I mean, but we've had bumps in this racetrack here due to our weather. Speedway Park used to have a big dip in it. But I don't think anybody can say that they didn't prep the track back in the Speedway Park days. You know, when you saw some of the numbers that they were running and the records that they were running, Graham Light and his guys, and Ed Shapka was part of it back then. They did a heck of a job.
Okay. What is your most vivid memory of Speedway?
Do you know, I guess I would say probably like the funny car races and that and the night races that they used to have. That probably would be the best memories of. And I guess doing my own bracket racing too, you know, and meeting the people. That there's still some of them racing today.
What about your favorite memory of the new track? You know, Capitol, Labatt, Budweiser now, Castro Raceway.
Well, there's the good memory of winning a Wally at the racetrack, and then there's the bad memory of hitting the wall. So I guess I've got a couple of memories on Hot August night. So I guess I've got a couple of memories.